Leader Fan Radio Network.
What do you mean?
And KFAN.com. 2 minutes, 22 seconds past the hour of 3 o'clock. That is Central Daylight Saving Time. Bumper to Bumper Show is on the air. It's live. It's local. And today it is a 3-hour tour on a downright moist late October on the verge of November weekday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Yes, it is the dew point is through the roof. Do we have to worry about tornadoes later today? It's not that kind of thing. Is it that? Are the skies going to turn turbulent in all of this unusual humidity?
Thunderstorm chance tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Slight chance is what the National Weather Service says. So anything is possible.
So this
anymore.
humidity lasts into tomorrow as well? And then I think, what's Halloween? Thursday? Isn't it supposed to turn like sharply colder? Is it Wednesday night, tomorrow night, or Thursday night?
Tomorrow night it gets to 39. The high on Thursday is 41.
Crisp.
With rain expected.
Ugh. Oh.
Now showers
does not help the Halloween experience.
Showers mostly during the day, maybe into the evening, but it should be calm around trick-or-treating time, just a little bit cold. So dress accordingly.
Did I read somewhere, maybe I heard it, I either heard it or read it, that, maybe both, that there's a town, I want to say it was somewhere east, but I don't recall. It may have been Paducah, Kentucky, for all I know, where they have, they now have new laws, just in time for this Halloween, on the books, making it illegal for individuals to trick-or-treat over the age of 14.
What?
Did I read that wrong?
I don't know. I'll find out.
Do a Google on that. See if something comes up. Maybe it was 16. But I thought it was 14. And we've had, over the years, our rants about, senior citizens trick-or-treating. We've had our fun with it. But I got to be honest with you. I never thought it was worthy of a law. Did you? I honestly put this under the classification of you got too much time on your hands in that municipality if that's the road you're going down.
Well, here's a couple. I don't know if these are new or if this is what you're talking about, but some towns already have laws on the books. Like Belleville, Illinois.
Okay.
Children over 12 can't wear masks. St. Michael's, Maryland, only children 12 and under can trick or treat. Chesapeake, Virginia, the age limit is 14.
What are we doing?
Upper Deerfield Township, the suggested age limit is 12.
Well, what does that even mean? Yeah, I mean, it's suggested. So here's the question. So let's say you are, what was the first town you named? It wasn't Illinois? Belleville, Illinois. And what's that law that's in place?
This is just about 12 and over are not allowed to wear masks.
Okay, let's say... This is so stupid.
You arrest them. If you're asking,
you cuff them?
You have to arrest them.
You have to cuff them.
You have to follow the law. We're a nation of laws, man.
And we have the police available to do these to enforce these Halloween laws.
In Bellevue or Belleville, apparently they do.
Come on. We can, again, have fun with it. Like, come on, you're too old to trick or treat, right? We've all done that. But I've never felt it rose to the level of, by God, the city government's finally doing something. They're finally taking a courageous and serious stand on an issue that has just drives us crazy each and every Halloween.
Now, one of them, Chesapeake's ordinance was created apparently after an incident where teenagers threw firecrackers into trick-or-treat bags.
Well, that's not good.
not ideal.
But that doesn't, so you impugn all teenagers?
Teenagers, a couple of them ruined it for everybody.
You're letting the terrorists win there, aren't you? Is there an age at which you will refuse to give candy?
No, but you're going to roll your eyes at this, and I think you might throw up whatever you just drank. I saw
black coffee. I'm trying to do black coffee these days.
I saw an Instagram post from a friend of ours earlier in the week that said, basically as a PSA to parents, don't shame the kids that are going out late, maybe older than you think. They're trying to hang on to their childhood, or they want to do something that's childlike.
Well, I'm not offended by that.
I know, but I'm saying...
Oh, you are?
Okay, that's good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
And it basically is, they grow up fast enough already. Let's let them cling to one of the childhood things that they get to do.
I might go passive-aggressive once I close the door and mutter, like, geez, come on, man, you're going to college next year. But I would not. No, I actually would not. Despite my reputation, that's not something I would make not in front of. No, it's not worth. Plus, you don't know backgrounds. You don't know stories.
Right.
And how often does it really happen?
Not all that often.
I don't think it does it?
No. As long as they're not, grabbing your pumpkins and smashing them and doing things like that.
Or they want like 26 pieces of candy.
They just empty the dish. Yeah.
None of that is good, right? We don't need new laws on the book. Because again, I'll say, going to arrest them? Who's...
Law and order.
Do you turn them in? You call it not... Is there a not... You can't possibly, with a straight face, call 911. They think, 911, what's your emergency? There's 3 kids with masks on that aren't supposed to, at their age, trick-or-treating. They're between Wimple Street and Bellevue Court. I mean, come on. That makes no sense to me. Does it to you?
Charleston Police Department. Yeah, we've got a couple of 17-year-olds in our driveway.
Yeah.
We've grabbed them. We have them under control. We've contained them.
And by the way, what could possibly go wrong in the video world if you actually attempt to detain individuals doing it? I mean, there's enough. We've got enough issues right now. That one should not be at the top of the list. My continued crusade to make mini chunkies one of the, Halloween treats of choice, nowhere. They don't exist. I mean, a regular-sized chunky is too big to give away as a piece of candy. But, like a lot of candies, you get like these mini sizes. And the chunky, I'm telling you, I think the chunky would do better than people think.
It would catch on.
If it were just offered. That, or I take even a small bag of baked Ruffles, too. Which I've given up on totally, by the way.
Yeah.
They're gone.
It's over.
It's over, Johnny.
Run.
Yeah, they're done. It's clear now they ain't coming back. The baked Ruffle is dead.
It was a good run.
It was a hell of a run.
You had a great run with the
somebody
baked
told
Ruffle.
us that the inventor of the baked Ruffle is a Minnesotan. I don't know if we've ever confirmed that. Have we?
We tried, I think, but I don't think we got anywhere.
What about parents that dress up and trick-or-treat with their kids?
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm not going to... It's not... Doesn't bother me.
Are they grabbing the candy? I mean, I wouldn't give the parents the candy.
Well, this guy says, the 612 guy or gal says he does give them candy. But I don't know if they were necessarily reaching for it, Not sure. I don't know. Because these stories are being presented as, finally, we've got some communities that are taking a stand. And I'm going, seriously? This is it, huh? This is your big stand. It doesn't.
You got to start somewhere.
Doesn't really get any place to me. United We Run was the motto, as I recall it, of the David Kahn Timberwolves, wasn't it? Or was that?
No, it was Meerkat. Yeah, you got it.
It was Meerkat, right? Yep. And the deal was when we had Rubio. Well, eventually we were going to get Rubio, Johnny Flynn, and we were going to run the triangle offense.
It was the Rambus era,
and we were going to run. We were going to fast break you to death. Teams were not even going to know. Their defenses had no chance to get back against us. United We Run.
It was in the Skyway. It was on the shirts.
Well, maybe our 3:30 guest will be able to explain this to me, but is it coming to the Minnesota Vikings? United We Run. Did you see the quote that's making the rounds? I think this was during the live interview
with KOC.
With the project and KOC, during the project with KOC. Here's the way Seifert, who's our 3:30 in studio guest, describes it. O'Connell is talking about pushing towards more of a, quote, fast break type of offense. To this point, the Vikings have held the ball longer before their average throw 3.09 seconds than any National Football League team. So that, to me, seems to suggest we want to, on any given play, we want to throw it fast. We want to get rid of it faster.
Yep.
Not necessarily that we're going to be running the line of scrimmage, trying to go with, what do they call the term? Tempo.
Tempo. You love tempo.
I love tempo. How can you not be aroused by tempo?
You can feel the tempo.
Yeah, you can feel it and you can touch it. You can taste it from time to time. Is that what, so United We Run. That's good. Could that be the new Vikings motto? I think it's always a good idea to get rid of the ball quicker, but You know what that means? Fewer downfield routes, because it takes longer for those routes to develop. So does the head coach mean what he says? That might mean, a 7-yard pass ain't bad.
Right.
Look what the Rams did to us. Now, they got the ball downfield some, But a lot of it, I thought, it felt like eye test, 9 yards here, 10 yards there, and then receivers who were, or running backs or tight ends who are getting another 7 yards. And so a 9-yard play was becoming a 16-yard play. I'm all for it. I've been all for it all along, to tell you the truth, because I do think it puts less stress on what? Your new left tackle and your offensive line.
Right.
Less stress to a certain extent on your quarterback, right? You'd like to think there aren't as many decisions to make. It's like pop, pop, pop. You got to make the quick call, get the ball out of your hands. But if that's Seifert will fill in the gaps on this thing. But apparently United we run starting Sunday night, and we did not get the break. We did not get the horseshoe. We talked about this yesterday. It's not the quarterback the Vikings deep down I have to believe would prefer to face. That's the extremely talented, explosive kid. What's his name? Richardson?
Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson has been replaced again by the 57-year-old backup, former Ravens. How far back? What was his first year as a starter for the Ravens? Like 1986?
I looked it up yesterday. I think he was drafted in 2008 because Cam Bynum talked about he's been in the league a long time,
yes.
A decade plus. It's over a decade plus. I mean, it's closer to 2 decades than 1 decade.
Yeah, so you're getting a guy who's obviously less mobile, which should help your pass rush, but a guy who does know how to get rid of the ball quickly, has a good arm, has an accurate arm, and we've had some problems the last 2 weeks with quarterbacks who know how to read and know how to get the ball out quickly.
The Fan and 2 men and a junk truck want to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. First keyword of the afternoon is money. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword money.
Ode to a dead guy. That's next.
And now it's time for Ode to a Dead Guy.
Wow, this is a bad one. They're all bad, obviously. But some resonate more with whoever might be hosting a program like this, or just as someone paying attention to the popular culture out there. Terry Garr, described aptly as the quirky comedy actor who rose from background dancer in Elvis Presley movies to co-star of such favorites, or in such favorites as Young Frankenstein and Tootsie, has died at the age of 79 years old. That age surprised me, I guess. But when you think of her career, yeah, she'd almost have to be if she was a background dancer in the old Elvis Presley movies. She apparently died Tuesday of multiple sclerosis, according to her publicist, surrounded by family and friends. She also, in January 2007, had underwent an operation to repair an aneurysm. I have always viewed her as one of the most underrated comic actors in cinema, and someone who did have that. I mean, if you go back, and many of you can't go back this far, to the early Letterman years, part of the, I think, success of most late night talk shows, I'd say most, certainly some, is you've got, a variety of guests that show up. But occasionally you hit upon a guest and there's such chemistry between the guest and the host that man or woman comes back early and often and almost becomes defined as part of the show's success. And David Letterman himself has said that he credits Terry Garr with some of the part of the reason that the show got off the ground and was so successful as quickly as it became that. They just had, she could mess with him. She had that sort of deadpan style. He seemed kind of, tickled by her. In fact, there were a lot of rumors for a while because the chemistry was so good on air that they might have been dating. I don't think they ever were. And beyond that, if you're old enough to have seen Young Frankenstein and or Tootsie, I would say in the latter, the Tootsie is the very charming comedy that goes back. When was Tootsie made? It had to have been, I want to say, in the mid-'80s. She wasn't the star. Dustin Hoffman was the star. of that film. She wasn't even the female lead of the program. But I think she made that movie.
1982 for
82.
Tootsie.
I think she absolutely made that motion picture go to the degree that it did. And Young Frankenstein, which is, I still maintain, my Jay Barreiro, my late father, told me a long time ago, and I used to argue with him about this, as kids are wont to do, that he thought Young Frankenstein was easily the best Mel Brooks film, and I used to say, not so fast, my friend. Well, he was right. I was wrong, and it took me, I don't know how many years to figure it out. And she has a great role opposite Gene Wilder in the greatest horror, if you send up, if again, it helps to have grown up with the old Universal horror films that go all the way back to, the 30s and 40s, which is a long way, but kept getting replayed and replayed on late night TV for many of us. She was outstanding in that film. In fact, we may be able to find the clip at some point, Guardsy, where as I recall it, they're approaching the castle. And they're knocking on the door. And it's sort of what you'd think, this classic Gothic castle. Mythic knocking. And as I recall it, he says, Gene Wilder says something to the effect of, nice knockers or great knockers. And Terry Garr's reply, who's next to him, is, well, thank you, Doctor. Great line. Absolutely brilliantly played. We can find it. I'm sure it indeed exists. What I guess I didn't know, Guardsy, is her father was a vaudeville comedian named Eddie Garr. Mother was Phyllis Lind, one of the original high-kicking Rockettes at New York's Radio City Music Hall. And Terry Garr began dance lessons at 6. By 14, she was already dancing with ballet companies in San Francisco and L.A. And when she was 16, she joined the road company of West Side Story in Los Angeles. Then some bit parts in films. And she tells the story that she won the West Side Story role after being dropped from her first audition. She comes back later the next day in different clothes. They don't recognize her. The clothes apparently sell her better, and she ends up accepting the job.
Kind of Tootsie related almost.
That's true. She appeared in the chorus of 9 Elvis Presley films, including Viva Las Vegas, Roustabout, and Clambake. She was on a number of weekly TV shows, Star Trek, Dr. Kildare, Batman. For you kids out there used to be rock and roll variety shows. Not talking about Ed Sullivan. I'm talking about rock and roll variety shows where from start to finish it was just rock acts. One of them was called Hullabaloo, and the other one was called Shindig. Now, back then, the snobs amongst us said Hullabaloo is too commercial. Shindig is the real thing. Shindig's the one. If you want to be serious about your music, you watch Shindig. She was on there as one of the dancers, and she was also a cast member of the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour. She had been, she was featured in some serious films, including she was Gene Hackman's girlfriend in The Conversation, which is a 1974 Coppola thriller. And eventually then that opened the door to being interviewed by Mel Brooks, who said he would hire her for the role of Gene Wilder's German, very sexy, buxom German lab assistant for Gene Wilder, Dr. Frankenstein, in Young Frankenstein, if she could speak with a German accent. And Gar's recollection of how she got to the accent was Cher, as in from Sonny and Cher fame, had this German woman, Renata, making wigs. So I stole the accent from her. You never know who will end up influencing you, for sure. She was also in a film called Mr. Mom that had some success at the time, playing the wife of Michael Keaton. But I think Tootsie, to me, was her best role. She plays the girlfriend who loses Dustin Hoffman to Jessica Lange in... have you ever seen Tootsie?
Tootsie's maybe my mom's favorite movie.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
I've seen that hundreds of times.
Too many times, you'd
Yeah,
say.
but it's wonderful.
And she was in a bunch more. I mean, she says, look, I would like to play Norma Ray in Sophie's Choice, but I never got the chance. She did get typecast, one could say, as a comic actor. And the story did turn sad. During the Letterman years, she was appearing regularly on that show. She says she began to feel, quote, a little beeping or ticking in her right leg. Began in 1983, spread to her right arm. She felt she could live with it, but by 1999, the symptoms were severe enough that she finally did consult a doctor, and the diagnosis was multiple sclerosis. She did not reveal her illness for something close to 3 years as well. Great career. Again, it's you're not going to win Oscars probably, but I mean, to me, it's sort of the Terry Gars of the world of cinema, comedy, acting, whatever.
Can't do it without them.
You can't do it without them, and they almost in some ways become more memorable. They really do, because she was reliable. She could be counted on, and she was versatile. Like I said, she was good in movies, and she was great with David Letterman for sure.
Knockers.
Oh, thank you, Doctor.
Perfect.
Doctor's correct, by the way. Whatever he's talking about.
That's it.
The doctor.
Yeah.
I don't remember that scene.
Yeah.
But I won't forget it now.
No, I don't think it's absolutely unforgettable scene. And the best scene in Tootsie is, the truth of the matter is, Dustin Hoffman is no longer interested in her if he ever was. Okay, but he's trying to help her get an audition for the soap opera job that ultimately he takes, playing a woman. That's the bit on Tootsie, and he's already basically gotten the job. So he's starting to pay attention to women's clothing because he needs more women's clothing. So while Terry Gar, they were going to go out and have dinner, I think is what it was, but they come back to her apartment. Terry Gar goes to take a shower, and when she comes out of the shower in the towel, he's got like a dress half on, half off, and his pants are around his ankles. And she's like, Michael, what are you doing? And he says, because he doesn't know what else to say, Sandy, I want you. Mm-hmm. So they end up having sex, even though he doesn't really want to have sex with her anymore.
It's in a tough spot.
It's a tough spot. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to take one for the team.
You do.
Is what you do. You don't
Gar.
want to hurt anybody's feelings, right? And an absolutely terrific scene. And then after they have sex, she says something to the effect of, so now what, almost? Like, where are we going to go from here? And he says, what do you mean by that? What do we have to look for? He said, well, if I'm going to have pain, I'd rather know I'm going to have the pain rather than pretend I'm not going to have the pain. As after, by the way, of course, she has sort of like lifted the sheet to look down at, the damage that they have done to one another. It's tremendous. It's very, very well done. Rest in peace, Terry Gar. Absolutely wonderful career, pretty much from start to finish on so many levels. Kevin Seifert in studio. That's next. Well, I'm not going to lie to you. Willow Mark Rosen's cat guy is very bitter with me, and I guess I should start this Kevin Seifert segment with an apology. It goes back to our last segment before the break. He intended his original plan tonight, in homage to the sad news breaking on Terry Gar, was to rent or to watch. Does anybody? Yeah, I guess they still do rent online. Tootsie.
Yeah.
He'd never seen it before. Now he thinks I ruined it for him because I kind of told him the basic conceit of the story.
Not really.
Well, kind of.
Kind of, but
Yeah.
not any more than a trailer would have.
And the details, believe me, the way it's fleshed out in the details, I don't think he'll be disappointed.
No, there's plenty left.
Or I think he just might be doing the bit.
No, I bet he's serious.
He might be
I
serious,
think someone
might be.
that calls themselves Willow Mark Rosen's cat is serious 100% of the time. I think they're
think
always
that's-
very literal.
You think that's likely?
I do. Yeah, I
you're
do.
Probably right about that.
I'd take their word for it.
Seifert is here. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open at 64686. You're not as old as me, but you're older than Guardsy, I think. So,
I think so.
do you remember Tootsie? Do you remember the motion picture Tootsie?
and people probably don't realize how edgy that movie was. as far as a man disguising himself as a woman,
Correct.
trying to pass himself off as a woman, especially in today's modern discussions in politics and social world. So I do remember that. I watched it probably when it came out, or if not shortly after.
I definitely saw it in a theater in Dallas.
And it was a great movie.
Yeah, it's a very well done film for sure. I don't know how it would hold up. It's been years since I've seen it, but it's a great supporting cast. And she was one of the reasons.
And
extremely funny, ultimately charming. And like you said, it did because Dabney Coleman is the Jessica Lange love interest.
Yeah.
At the start, they both work in the same soap opera, and he's the raging sexist pig.
Right.
That's so, to that extent, that's what he represented at also a time where I don't know how many movies were being done on that particular
People might have
issue.
thought he was normal in those days. I don't know. Like, he is now,
Very true,
for
Davey.
sure,
Yeah.
raging sexist pig.
All right,
Maybe
so
not then.
you got my attention today with your tweet about KOC, who was on with PA on the project this morning. We are moving towards a fast break type of offense. So what the hell does fast break type of offense mean as you understand it?
I think you pretty much nailed it in the first segment when you were talking about it. I think they just want to get rid of the ball a little quicker. As I noted, Sam Darnold is holding the ball longer before throwing the ball than any quarterback in the NFL.
Well, forced to by KOC, who wants 30-yard patterns.
It's some that, and I think some he's trying to get away from from pass rush instead of just throwing the ball before the pass rush gets there. And so, he's still getting used to this offense. I wouldn't say he's mastered it the way Kirk Cousins had mastered it by the end of his tenure here last year. And so there's probably a little bit of a longer processing time that just by definition that's happening. But they're also getting TJ Hawkinson back. And I think that was probably a reference to Hawkinson, who's going to be there, sitting there 6 yards away from the line of scrimmage, available for that quick, easy 6-yard gain, and maybe some after the catch as well. And so I think when you put those two things together, that's probably the adjustment that he was referencing. I don't expect it to be like they're never going to throw the ball, more than 10 yards down the field, or it's going to be boom, 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 boom. But just mixing that in, I think, will be a good thing.
Let me ask you, you have also the stat in here, the Vikings have held the ball longer before their average throw than any other team.
Yeah.
3.09 seconds. So what is that number? Have you gone any deeper on that number? Like, are there great teams that are holding it close to that, or is it a sign of you're asking for a little bit of trouble if you do it? I
mean, the time range amongst the quarterback who's getting rid of the ball quickest and the furthest is like less than a second, but it's like it compare when you have guys on either end of the spectrum. Most people are in the middle; it doesn't make much difference. But he's clearly, beyond. Darnold has clearly been beyond average there, and in this case, the most. And so I think it's what we were talking about. I think there's a little bit of a longer processing time. There's definitely an interest in getting the ball downfield to Jefferson and others, which takes a little bit of time. They're encouraging him to make the reads and move from one guy to the other. You can physically see him doing that, so which is good quarterbacking. That's what you want. And he's gotten, in many cases, the pass protection that you need to be able to do that. That also could change, with Christian Darrisaw no longer being able to play for the rest of the season. So maybe that's another thing that we're talking about in terms of the quick, the fast break offense that O'Connell referenced today. So you put all those things together, and I think that's what's going on. And again, there's sometimes I think when Darnold could probably get rid of the ball quicker, but instead of having to run away from the pass rush or whatever, and that will come, I think, as he gets more comfortable in the timing and the rhythm of the offense. But there's a couple factors, and those are the ones.
What is the most likely configuration in your mind of our offensive line for the Sunday night game against the Colts?
Yeah, I'm kind of assuming, based on the tea leaves, that they want to move Blake Brandel from left guard to left tackle, and then activate Dalton Reisner from the injured reserve and put him at left guard. That would be putting their five best offensive linemen on the field at the same time, which is exactly the reference that Wes Phillips made today, the offensive coordinator. He declined to say who those five were. Right. We'll leave that to O'Connell, I assume, to say publicly. But if they were just going to use David Quesenberry, who is sort of their swing backup, can play left tackle or right tackle, I think that would have just happened already, and they would have just as a matter of course say, oh yeah, he's next up. But he's a veteran guy that is valuable in that role. But there's a big difference between that and starting for the last 10 games of the season.
No smoke that gives you a sense that we're on the verge of adding an offensive lineman from outside our organization before the trade deadline?
Not to start. No one's giving away a left tackle that can play, I don't think. And that's not to say that
even if it's a team that's done?
I mean, not that I know of.
And there's probably not any worthy of actually considering giving up your number one for next year, correct?
Well, I mean, if a team was willing to do it, but you wouldn't want to do that for that amount of time because Darrisaw's coming back, and you've got all the money put into him. So to put a first-round draft pick into a player that at best you're going to use unless you want to move him to, there's no other position to move him to. So you wouldn't do that, I don't think. But let's not underplay how difficult it would be on Brandel. He was drafted as a tackle. He's played left tackle. He started NFL games for the Vikings at left tackle as recently as 2022. But they, at one point or another, decided this guy's a guard. I think this is the guy, and he's played guard the entire year. This year, played every snap. Has been pretty solid overall, and it's been a while since he's even been in the mentality of left tackle. And so I think people underrate how significant of a move that is in the middle of the season. And they have had a little extra time here between the Thursday night game and now. But even then, this is, even though you say this is the 5 best offensive linemen on the field, don't underestimate how difficult of a transition that would be for Brandel if that's what ends up happening.
I have not studied the Colts defense at all. So are they a good pressure team in general?
They've got some decent one-on-one pass rushers. They drafted one this year, and they have Kwity Paye that they drafted a few years ago. So there's definitely some guys who can beat people one-on-one. And so that's – but I wouldn't say they're above average or below average, but there's definitely guys you have to account for.
Well – and I think you alluded to it. I did at the top of the show. That's another reason to say, well, get rid of the ball a little bit quicker. Reduce your margin for error when you can without sacrificing everything you're trying to do offensively, because it's not realistic to think that you're going to get the same production from left tackle no matter who you put out there.
No, and again, you'll have Hawkinson, but you want him out in the running routes. You don't want him staying in to chip too much. I don't think that would be a different tight end. So maybe you use 2 tight ends. Maybe you say Aaron Jones, it's going to be a few less, routes that you're going to be able to run. We're going to need you to chip, or maybe you have CJ Ham in the game to chip like that. Those will be the kind of things. And it's not something that a lot of NFL teams haven't had to deal with, losing your left tackle. They certainly, planned out a scheme to have a left tackle who needs as little help as anyone would, and who can actually make holes and do positive things as opposed to just not get beat. And that's one of the things Christian Darrisaw gave them, and that's now gone. But it's not an insurmountable obstacle because you see a lot of NFL teams have to deal with it.
This is an example of, I think, an individual who's misunderstanding the quote-unquote fast break part of this. Ask Kevin, if we go to a fast break offense, will that affect our defense? Our defense looks tired and old recently as it is. I don't think the idea here is necessarily to get to the line of scrimmage quicker or to run all hurry up, right? It's within the realm of each play, just maybe get rid of the ball a little bit sooner, which, by the way, can mean, if it's successful, you're sustaining drives, you're holding onto the ball longer.
Yeah, just think of it as 1, 2, 3 step throw.
Right.
That's the fast break in football. And that's something that's been missing for the most part from them. They actually have run the fewest plays per game in the NFL. And it's not all for bad reasons. Some of it is because they've had short fields, and some of it's because they throw a 97-yard touchdown pass and they score quick. But over time, they have their offense has run a lot less plays and been on the field a lot less than the defense has been on the field. And there's a lot of factors, and I get into it in a story that I'm doing for tomorrow. But that if they can do a little bit more of the 5-yard, 6-yard, boom, move the chains, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I don't think so. There are other football wonks who concluded after the Thursday night game that the head coach has reached a point where he has almost no confidence in any running back other than Aaron Jones, and that even though that on the one hand that might be understandable because he's clearly a cut above the others, it's also dangerous because of everything we know about Aaron Jones' inability to stay on the field. Do you agree with that premise?
No, I don't think that I think he certainly has confidence in Cam Akers, who he's
I don't know why.
Now acquired twice. I mean,
he's okay.
This is a history of sports where there's always coaches and players that connect, and this guy will, go down. We
didn't see him running, right? He was wasn't he on return? Didn't he return a kick? I don't think he ever got the ball in a handoff.
He returned 2 kicks.
Okay,
and I think that was against Detroit actually.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
2 games, and so. And so we can get into why or why not why he shouldn't, but there's definitely a trust factor there. And Wes Phillips, the offense coordinator, was talking today, and it was kind of interesting when you have not as many plays as you would like, and or you're on the sidelines for a while the defense is on the field for a long time. Aaron Jones is getting a long break, and so you look over there and you say, well, we were going to give Ty Chandler or Cam Akers this drive, but he's been standing here drinking water and sitting on the bike or doing whatever he needs to do to recover from the last drive, and he's recovered, he's ready to go. And so you don't want to leave him off the field, and you're not ending up overplaying him from a snap perspective because your total snaps are not that high.
Yeah.
So there's also that conundrum. You don't want to lock in okay, after 2 series, no matter what the situation is, Aaron Jones is off the field, this guy is on, because the situation might be that he's totally fine for that 3rd series.
Somebody tried, I keep bringing up the name Khalil Herbert, but somebody then tweeted at me that the Vikings they inquired on him and they were turned down. Do you know that to be true? Have you heard that or read that?
I do not know that to be true.
Because he's buried in Chicago completely.
Yeah, and there's there's always the fun part of trying to trade for somebody within the division to help you win the division that year at the expense of that team. And so, if they had and were turned down, then that wouldn't be shocking.
No, I guess, although we've done plenty of business with the Lions, much to the Lions' delight.
Yep, and also the Packers.
That's right.
Draft day as well.
So, news confirmed today. We had speculated on this yesterday. Richardson is benched as the young starting quarterback. He is going to come off the bench, and Methuselah is back. How old is he now? You reminded me of the same thing a texter wrote, that he was drafted in the same class as KOC?
Yeah, 2008. And so that would probably make him 38-ish or so. And he's, as he showed in Cleveland last year, he can still drop back and throw it. He's not a guy who had to change his play style over the course of his career. You see a lot of quarterbacks come in the league and they're relying on their running and scrambling ability and have to adjust that over time. Joe Flacco never had to do that. He's been playing the same way, the same style for 18, what would that be? 16
Don't
years.
ask us to do the math on this show. We have no ability to do it
16 years,
at all.
17 seasons. And so he's been doing that ever since, and he's pretty good at it. He's pretty good at just dropping back, knowing who he's throwing to, and getting rid of it.
Deep down, do you think this is a break for the Vikings or actually a curse for the Vikings?
If there's a young quarterback who's really seems to be on the struggle bus and is trying to work through his problems on the field, even though there's some debate about how much he was actually struggling or not, I think that's probably especially with this defense and this defensive scheme, that's probably who you'd want to face. I will say that we talked to Brian Flores today, probably 30 minutes before the news broke, and his point was, yes, some of the throws are not, landing perfectly, and yes, there's some development to do, but this is a guy who can make plays on pure athletic ability that no one else can do. There's a big deal made about him asking out for a play, but and Flores did you watch the play he made that got him so tired? He shrugged off a 300-pound defensive lineman from getting a sack and then ran for a certain amount of yards. And his point was you can have a guy like that who on some of the plays that are easier to make, probably he's not making them, but he can also make plays that totally change a game based on his athletic ability and just his competitiveness. And if you do 2 or 3 of those during the course of a game, you might tip the scales even beyond if you had just made the plays you're supposed to make. So he was kind of gearing up to at least tout this guy as somebody who can really hurt you if you're not on top of things. And Flacco, on the other hand, will do all the things that you're supposed to do and maybe not many of the things you're not.
Flacco for this season has appeared, I believe, in 4 games, 65.7% completion percentage, slightly better than Richardson's, who's at 42%?
Yeah.
716 yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 pick, sacked 6 times in 4 games. His quarterback rating, the old-fashioned one, is 102.2, which I think's good.
Yeah.
And then his QBR, you tell me, you're the QBR expert, is 73.7, which I think is also pretty damn good.
Very good. I don't think it's high. He's played enough to qualify for the rankings, but if he did, that would be in the top 5.
So again, obviously he has. I still. Here's the way I look at it. Tell me if this makes any sense. I view what the last 2 quarterbacks have done, and I view neither of them as particularly mobile, but veteran-y. They've been around the block. They do know how to get rid of the ball. There were, I think, a lot of short passes that were effective, turning into longer plays. Although with the Rams, eventually, really both teams, they made completions pretty much everywhere. But I felt a lot of it was we're going to get rid of the ball quick. We're going to use an extra. We might even use a receiver in motion to help block to give the quarterback more time to make sure he gets rid of the ball. And that this guy's into that same, falls into that same classification. A guy who's been around the block, knows how to read stuff, knows how to pop, do stuff quickly. And that's what has exposed this defense a little bit the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and getting, as a result, almost no pressure on the quarterback. They got to go off a few times, but I think Stafford, the stat was 34 dropbacks, 3 pressures, and he completed his pass on all 3 of those, including one for
the one where he shrugged off
Harrison Phillips and Jonathan Grenard and throws a touchdown to Cup.
Bursic was bitter.
Well, Stafford's that was like vintage Stafford. Like that guy, I don't know if he's going to the Hall of Fame, but there will be talk about him for the Hall of Fame. Like Joe Flacco, if he can do that, then they will be in trouble, but I don't think he can.
Well, maybe if
he gets pressured like that, he's going down or he's throwing an incompletion. He's not throwing a touchdown.
I think as ridiculous as the Stafford to Minnesota speculation was, now the Rams are interested in what they can do this year. So that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
If there ever was any possibility of him going anywhere, that's gone now, isn't it?
And I don't even know if there was. And even
if there ever was,
Cooper Cup stuff, they've already taken back as well. And so it's weird how one game shouldn't decide if you're about to blow up your whole franchise, but I think apparently that one did.
That's how it played out. All right, let's do this. Let's make this the top of the hour pause. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line is open. Lots of texts coming in for Guardsy, for Seifert, 64686. Guardsy, if you get any talkbacks, that's another thing. We could take a talkback if you have an observation or a question. We love those. Correct. Don't forget also today, Luigi is joining us from the Hawaiian Islands, a rare Hawaiian Islands visit for Louie.
It's pretty nice.
At 5:30. He's already sent you and I videos from his oceanfront condo.
Better than the ones Mace sent us yesterday.
Yes, you could say.
I don't even think we can talk about.
No, we can't, although Mace is going to be back in studio tomorrow. So Louie won't be in studio because he's in Hawaii. He will join at 5:30. We're out at 6 for Minnesota Wild hockey. And then don't forget, on the Timberwolves channel tonight, it's our second TNT game already. We are hosting the hated Dallas Mavericks. Is Luka going to play? They played last night. Do we know who's in and who's out?
Oh, I bet Luka plays. I don't know any of that. I'm just assuming they want to prove their point again.
Well, the onus is on us, I think, at this point, because they've sort of proved it. But it will be interesting to see how seriously we take it on the basis of how badly that playoff series played out. So lots to get to between now and 6. More football, more NFC North talk with Seifert in a minute.